Welcome to the Being Human podcast, raising awareness of human beings through conscious questions about being human.
Hello, I'm Frank Emanuel. On this episode of Being Human, I met with two great friends, Thor, a minimalist, and Ava, a spiritual healer. We discussed belief versus faith, what their definitions are, and what they mean to us. I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Being Human podcast. I am your host, Frank Emanuel, and joining me today are Thor and
Ava.
And today's topic we are going to be discussing is belief versus faith. What does it mean to you?
Belief to me is not necessarily like a thought process. I feel it more viscerally. And so, and I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, about what it feels like to believe in something versus what it feels like to have faith in something. And so, if I have something that I believe in, or if I believe that I'm going to do something, then generally what happens is I develop these circumstances or happenings that are going to take place around this belief. Like if I believe I'm going to go back to school and accomplish this career, then generally what happens in my mind is I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. Come hell or high water, if I believe I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be a very self-motivated process. And there's a lot of constriction and restriction and limitation that goes along with that belief. I believe that I'm going to do this, and so therefore I can't possibly do that because that's going to conflict with this belief that I have that I'm going to accomplish this.
Belief and faith are closely related then, aren't they?
They are, but when I was considering faith as opposed to belief, it felt to me more like kind of like a reaching beyond myself, kind of like a letting go. I have faith that this is going to happen, and so that kind of leaves me open to things that may, like circumstances that may take place along the way that may even propel me towards that quicker, that may even make it happen quicker. Mm-hmm. It feels more inclusive. It feels more light and free versus having a belief, which is very limiting. It feels kind of cumbersome and heavy.
I guess everybody has their own interpretations on how it feels to them, right?
I think they're used synonymously in most common day usages of belief and faith are kind of synonymous. I think there is some differentiation between the two. I don't see my big hang up is I don't really see the need for beliefs. I don't see, so if we define belief as claiming to know or an answer, providing an answer for something that we don't know, but we have no evidence for, would be a belief. And I don't see the purpose or the need for that. So I
have a couple definitions for belief.
Yeah, what do you have?
Belief is an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists.
So you don't know something to be true. So you create an answer or you create an idea and you believe in that idea absent any evidence. So I guess the crux of the matter for me is that I'm curious about is, why do we as humans do this, and why do we praise this? Why are we told, well, you got to believe in something, you know?
But
why is this?
Ultimately, belief is just a thought, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's a thought that we can orient our lives around. I mean, you can use this to create. I mean, you have beliefs at the center of most cultures that unite, you know, individuals around a common idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the need in terms of for that practical application of belief to unite groups of people. There's a problem with belief as it becomes a dividing force between groups that have separate belief systems. But more, I'm curious along the lines is why do we fall into this pattern of believing things? Why are we so uncomfortable with the idea of not knowing?
Wouldn't you consider faith to be an idea too? Just an idea that you don't have an answer to, but you're willing to kind of go with it anyway?
I think faith is, for me at least, is more, the outcome is open. Whereas belief, I have an answer, or I have a desire for a certain outcome. Faith for me is sort of just a trust in whatever happens, is sort of the way that the universe lined it up for me to happen. I don't think that's the same as fate, so I don't think faith and fate are the same. You know, I think faith is, for me, the way I look at it is just sort of being okay with whatever is.
But aren't people of different faiths often at odds with one another?
Yeah, that's where I think maybe the word, we get into semantics here, and the word faith
Right.
is maybe misused, and they should be people of different beliefs.
Definitely. Because faith can all be connected. It can be from one religion to the next, but the stories that they have differ from religion to religion, and stories are beliefs, right?
I mean, anytime there's no evidence for something that you believe in, that you hold to be true, it's a belief. I mean, when you're providing an answer for something, there's no evidence for that. That's a belief. It's different than, there's a difference between belief and theory, though, I think, because a theory is open to further revision. You know, you can say, well, this is a theory for how this happens, and it could be wrong, but as right now, it's the most valid answer we have to explain this phenomenon. Whereas belief is an open and shut case. It's like we have
This is my belief.
This is my belief, and there's no questioning it. You know, it's a very closed-minded position. So belief to me is a scary idea.
Do you think faith is closed-minded? Like pure faith without belief. Does that exist?
Well, how are we defining faith again? We're defining it as...
Well, I don't know, because the definition that comes from online is a belief with a strong conviction. But there's more to it than that. That was just one of the definitions. Some of the definitions included faith to be connected with God or religions. But I think you can have faith without having religion, or even necessarily having a specific God.
Well, would you define faith as a type of confidence? Like, I have faith in myself. I have self-confidence. I believe in well, and this is where we get into semantics, because, you know, we use these words in our everyday speech so freely that we don't really know what they mean.
Well, this definition says that faith is a strong belief or trust in someone or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or the observance of an obligation from loyalty or fidelity to a person, promise, engagement. Or a belief not based on proof.
Are beliefs based in proof, though? Maybe at some point in time, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it a belief then at that point in time. I would call it a theory or a hypothesis. I mean, I think, to me, a belief, there's a difference between a theory and a belief.
Well, say tomorrow the sun is going to rise. Do I believe in that? Or is that a theory? Because it can be proven, right?
Well, it's a theory, but it could conceivably be a day where the sun doesn't rise.
Is that not a belief, though?
Huh?
If I believe that the sun is going to rise tomorrow?
Well,
Technically, the sun doesn't rise.
That is true.
Technically, the sun is careening through the universe at like
You know what I meant.
uncalculable,
You know what I
miles
meant.
per light years per whatever. And it's not even stationary. It's
Okay.
actually
We
vortex.
clarify that. I will see the sun tomorrow when I wake up.
Uh-huh. What if it's a cloudy day?
Yes.
But you have faith that the sun is there. You know that it's there, despite the clouds. It's there.
well, okay. Are there downsides? Let's look at the negative. Are there downsides to belief versus having theories? For example, if you believe something to be true, it seems to me like you are close-minded as to the possibility that it won't be. So it influences your behavior in a way that could have negative repercussions because it doesn't allow you to change or alter your behavior.
Or it takes something, a very, very traumatizing usually, or very, a situation that really causes a reevaluation
Of your beliefs.
of your beliefs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually there's some type of circumstance in life that causes a shift,
Right.
and it's extremely uncomfortable. So I would say that, yeah, beliefs do tend to limit a person, because oftentimes the letting go of that belief or reevaluation of it, because what I believe no longer coincides with the way that my life has turned out. Usually people experience that as like a midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
They go their whole entire lives believing that I must make a ton of money and I must own a house and I must have 2.25 children and I must, I believe that I need to do these things. And then at some point, those beliefs get questioned.
I think faith is on another kind of dimension than belief because a lot of people have beliefs. I mean, everybody does, but I don't think necessarily everyone has faith. So like, it's easy when you relate it to personal things that have happened in your life where you believed after a traumatic experience that certain friends would be there for you, say, and they weren't there. And then that causes you to reevaluate that belief, specifically. But I think faith is more about, it's like a deep knowing that you know something to be true because it is. And it's just an understanding.
Well, I think you touched on a really interesting point, which is usually we have a set of beliefs and then we go through a traumatic experience or we have something happen to us and then those circumstances don't support that belief. Like, I believe that my friends are going to be there for me no matter what. A lot of people have that belief. Or, I believe that this is going to bring me happiness. I believe that this is going to bring me contentment or security. People often believe that friendships will do that for them. And then they have a traumatic experience, reach out to their friends, and maybe one or two of them would be there when you have perhaps 10 or 12 people that you can reach out to. So then you come face to face with this belief. Oh my gosh, I believed that all of these people were going to be there for me, and only a couple of them really were. I believed that working this job 40, 50, 60 hours a week was going to bring me contentment and joy. I believed that owning this car was going to make me feel good about myself. And when we give ourselves the opportunity to really consider does this thing really do what I believe it's going to do, instead of just letting it be whatever it is, there's usually a crisis. Usually a crisis when the reevaluation takes place.
Absolutely.
This experience does not match up with my belief.
Well, a lot of people just go through cognitive dissonance where their beliefs don't line up with reality, and then they're forced to sort of live in this state of just uncomfortable sort of. They don't.
Right.
They can't deny their beliefs, but they at the same time realize that they're not in accordance with sort of their everyday reality, and it's
a lot of people have those
creates
beliefs that
tension.
they, think the world is out to get them, or they think, things are already always happening to them from the outside, that kind of thing. And they can live their whole lives that believing that, because they kind of perpetuate it with their own thoughts, even if they're not based in reality. If someone has a bad attitude and they can't understand why they can't keep a job and they, can't keep a relationship, they still might hold on to those beliefs, even if they continuously are not, based in reality, because it's a comfort thing for them.
So does anyone see anything positive that come out of beliefs? I mean, it seems to me like you're holding something to be true that you don't know to be true, and it is inhibiting you from progressing or changing or altering your viewpoints. It seems to me like belief.
It seems like beliefs are based on perception.
And oftentimes misperception. So, I mean, it seems that it's overall, on the whole, a negative thing that people do.
I think when you talk about it that way, it makes me think of religion, because some people will get offended for saying that, beliefs are a negative thing. I think, though, that, in any kind of religion, the stories that are told, you can take certain truths out of them to kind of help give you faith rather than just a belief, Does that make any sense at all?
Do you think it's important to respect people's beliefs? I mean, if somebody has a theory about something, they have an idea or an explanation for something, do I need to respect that idea? It's not about... There's a difference between respecting an idea and respecting an individual. I could have the utmost respect for an individual, but I could think that his ideas are totally flawed.
Well, most people are very attached to their ideas. They identify with what they believe in. It becomes a part of them, especially, if you want to continue the discussion on religion. A lot of spiritual or religious people identify very strongly with their particular belief. So if you attack their belief, you attack their person. And so I do believe it's important. I have a belief. We'll see if we can prove it to, limiting or not. But I do believe personally, and it's been my personal experience, that it is important to respect people's beliefs, because if that belief doesn't serve that person, if it's limiting in any way, I truly believe and have seen in my own life and have seen in other people's lives that ultimately it will crumble on its own. Ultimately, every single person ever will have the opportunity to reevaluate their beliefs based on their circumstances and situations in their life. So it's not my personal responsibility to
squash their beliefs.
Yeah, that's not our responsibility.
I think if people have beliefs, there's a reason, whether they're extremely limited or extremely open-minded beliefs, there's a reason they're at that stage in their life. And it's not a bad thing, maybe, to try to raise awareness for people that might have certain beliefs, but
Perhaps.
it has to be welcomed, you know.
Yeah. A mind changed against its will is of the same opinion still, deep within that person's mind. If they're forced into anything, it's like the book 1984. 2 + 2 = 5. No, it really doesn't. But at the very end of the book, he was willing to concede that yes, 2 + 2 = 5, even though deep in his mind he knew 2 + 2 = 4. Just so he could be free, you know? And I think that most people who find their beliefs challenged in a way that forces them to conform to another person's idea, which is just a belief. Right. You believe that your perspective is right. You believe that your belief is right. And so therefore I'm going to squash yours. You know, that puts undue pressure on another person, and maybe they'll ultimately concede, you know, maybe ultimately they'll let their belief go, but I think that it's just for show.
No, it has to be, like I said, it has to be willing, I think. If there was a new religion created and they started showing up on your doorstep, knocking on the door and leaving pamphlets, most people wouldn't, you know, dive deeply into that, you know, and consider an option, because they would stick with their own beliefs and kind of brush it off as being, you know, the others. Because people label groups of people so that they can, like you said, have an identity with their beliefs, you know, around like-minded people. So if you challenge that,
that usually causes separation.
Right, it almost makes them strengthen their belief, because...
And that's one of the primary problems with human beings, that you can give them every logical or you can give them every bit of evidence that they need to change their minds, and they won't.
Right.
That to me is not that is not a positive thing. That is the problem with belief, is that I am entrenched in an idea, yes, and so personally attached to it that I am unwilling to be open to alternative information.
So maybe a belief is a closely held idea that someone strongly identifies with, that's tangled up in complicated emotions.
And that to me is a problem in and of itself. When a person becomes identified with an idea, you're in a fragile state right there. I would never want to become entangled with an idea that especially one that there is no evidence for. That is just leaving me in a very vulnerable position. And I wish that human beings would be able to let go of that particular aspect of how we operate. You know, I don't know where this, in human psychology, where this traces back to, but
belief gives them comfort, because it gives them it gives someone an answer to a question. I believe this, so this is going to happen, you know? Even though...
Well, we operate, I mean, if we utilize it like that, we do operate like, you know, I don't put my hand on the stove because I believe it's going to burn me. I have experience that tells me such, but I'm dealing with sort of more ethereal topics. I mean, you know, stuff like... you know, an afterlife or angels or anything like that. I mean, is it harmful to anyone else that someone believes that? No, but it puts people, the fact that they do believe in things without any evidence for that.
Well, it is harmful, because the reason that we have had so many religious wars is because there are people who have come along that say that there is no afterlife. Right. There is no such thing as... this entity or being that you call God. And because people so very strongly identify with that, they're willing to go to war and kill other people for it. Right. So it is harmful. So it depends on what the person does with their belief.
Well, right. So, I mean, in general, though, I mean, that mindset...
it's closed-minded.
It's very closed-minded. I don't see anything... Why is belief something that we praise? Or, you know, not everyone does, but I think a large segment of our society believes that believing in something is important, and I see belief as a wholly negative force. I don't think that there's anything positive that comes out of belief. I think that the reassurance or the safety that people get from it is a false sense of security, that in fact they've put themselves in a more vulnerable position, and that the stronger position is to simply say, I don't have an answer, I don't know. And that to me is the definition of faith, which I feel like I probably have faith, because I have faith in whatever is, and I don't necessarily need to understand it. I have faith in whatever happens.
Yeah.
But if having a belief motivates people to do good, then would that be acceptable?
Yeah, right, but I don't think that I personally don't believe that one needs to have belief in order to be motivated to do good. I think that one can operate altruistically without needing to believe in sort of certain tenets or dogma that religions espouse, or I don't think that necessarily is.
I think there's a way to
prerequisite.
still. There's different levels of religion as far as the depths of belief and faith. Like for some, on the surface level, they might believe in a religion because of the stories, and they think the stories are true, so that's it, But then for some, the beliefs or the stories, they find a faith out of that, like an understanding. So not everyone that has religion necessarily has faith. They might just believe in the beliefs, and that's that. But other people can see the stories and then kind of find a deeper faith from that. And then there's like another level where people just have this faith, this understanding. They could go to any church or any religion and just take the stories to kind of have little sign pointers that kind of enhance their faith. Does that make sense?
I'm confused about that.
No, I think that no matter what you encounter in life, and I think that no matter where you go, no matter who you come in contact with, no matter which books you read, no matter which church you go to, no matter which country you visit, there are general truths that can be that a person can experience in an unlimited quantity.
You mean connected truths.
Absolutely, and
Right.
I think that's kind of what you were referring
Yeah.
to. Like, yes, and we don't have to focus mainly on religion. This is not like a religious debate by any
Right.
means. It just usually happens to go this route when we talk about belief versus faith and or faith. It's not necessarily in opposition, but so I think that every major path to awakening has an awakening story. There's a being or a human that has had this amazing experience to awakening. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and all of the major faiths or belief systems, there is this one story about this one particular being that reached enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. And so no matter where you go, you'll find that story. It's not the only one that's out there, but if you look for it, you'll find it. Just like if you go to any city or any country, there will be parts of that country that are extremely prosperous, very abundant, and then there are also areas of abject poverty. So no matter which story you read, you can pull the truth out. It's not always right there in black and white, but if you look for it, you'll find it. So if you read the Holy Bible, if you read the Quran, it's always the same. Don't be an asshole. Be nice to people.
Right.
I mean, I think you can find.
Don't judge. You know, when you judge, you have this belief that person is wrong, and that limits you to allowing yourself to see that person or that thing
So identifying
for what it is. You are identifying that thing
to-
and making it wrong.
I can find empirical evidence. I don't need belief or faith to be nice to people. I can just simply test the theory of how being nice works in my life.
You, maybe,
So-
but for lots of other people,
So I
they
can
need
be
sort of a guidebook or a manual
So I
about
can-
how to not be an asshole.
so I can behave towards people like an asshole, and then I can sort of stand back and see how does that feel. And if it feels kind of shitty,
But
then
I'll
say, okay, well, I
tested.
tested the theory of asshole, and it seems like it results in shitty feelings. So I'm going to try something else this time. Like, you know.
But what if it makes you feel really good?
Well, you know, and then it will for certain individuals, and we call those people sociopaths. Or I mean, and they become,
So
you
then
know,
you call
we
yourself
lock them
Ted
up.
Bundy.
You know, usually, right? I mean, those people have some sort of malfunction going on in their brain that doesn't allow them to feel empathy or love or compassion for anyone. But I don't see the need. I think people generally, at their core, you know, operate in a fashion where they're trying to maximize their own well-being, and I think it's pretty evident that being nice to people usually maximizes your own well-being.
But then why are so many people so angry all the time? I mean, I think that just goes back to people.
I don't know. Are people always so angry? I think maybe with, you know, is that something that's natural? I think there's probably biological explanations for a lot of this. You know, I mean, why you're loving towards your own clan or family, and then you're violent towards outsiders. I mean, that probably goes back to some sort of evolutionary piece of our brain.
Right. I mean, I just notice a lot of it on the roads driving. You know, people don't have respect or understanding for other people. You know, if
Well,
someone's
they're
crossing
not
the road,
part of my clan. You know,
Right.
I mean, if you look at primate behavior,
and they
like
don't.
with monkeys will, once the group reaches a certain size and there's no bloodline connection, they'll begin to they have infighting. So it doesn't surprise me that in a city of 1 million people, you know, that you're in a stressful situation.
But I think people naturally take that path, unless they're aware of it, more often than not. I mean, instead of taking the path which we know to be better of being nice to people and kind to your neighbors and that kind of thing, at least on the roads, you know, someone's crossing the road in front of you and you're late, most people are just thinking about themselves and not trying to help the old lady across the road, but honking their horn because...
Fuck roads and cars anyways. Shit puts everyone in a
I'm just
bad
trying
mood.
to say that, you know, grocery stores, wherever, a lot... Maybe I'm being pessimistic.
You don't see
but-
people behaving like that when they're walking like down a path like in nature.
No. But I mean, I
They
feel
get really
good.
angry at the trees. God, tree, why are you in the way?
You should feel good. I mean, when you do good things, you feel better. I mean, take the grocery store, for instance. You say, no, oh, please, after you. You go first. You know, it's my pleasure. And by being kind to others and you know, you really feel it back to yourself.
Right, but you don't need any religion to tell you to do that.
Right.
You don't need any system. You can just see how it feels for yourself. And if it feels good, then you do it. If it doesn't feel good, then you don't do it.
But do we live in a society that really allows us to cultivate that within ourselves?
I think you can be in touch with it. You don't necessarily need the stories or the beliefs. I mean, beliefs can be instilled in us from our parents as well.
Yeah.
You know, you do this.
And most of our families are
sit
broken.
like this, you know, act like this at, you know, at the dinner table, or say please and thank you. Some people don't get instilled with those different, beliefs growing up, but
So then we can maybe draw a theory that most angry drivers come from broken homes.
I mean, just ask anyone the question. How's that working for you? That could be the whole religion in and of itself. How's that working for you? Test it out.
right.
Be an asshole. And then come report back to me on how that's working for you. Are you
Right.
finding contentment with that life? I mean, if you're miserable, then I would say you probably need to make an adjustment.
But that comes back to a comfort feeling, because some people just want to live in that misery because it's what they're used to. It's who they are. That's what they identify with. So they never think outside that box. Well, maybe I should react
Get treatment.
differently.
But if I'm a nice goody two shoes person, and I've been the good boy or girl my whole life, and I've always done what I thought I needed or should do to be a good person. That life is fraught with obligation and frustration and anger. And maybe suddenly if I decide to be an asshole to everybody, because I don't want to put up with anybody's stuff, I don't want to do what other people tell me to do, I want to do what I want to do, that might feel good.
Right.
That might feel good. So if doing what everybody tells me to do, if you ask, how's that working for you? And you want to know what, if I think about it, it's really not, because I'm miserable and I'm unhappy because I'm always doing what everybody else wants me to do. And I'm not living my life for myself. And then I ultimately decide to become a jerk and just tell people how I feel about them and live my life a totally different way. I might actually feel good about that.
I think it'd be more effective for people's evolution to live based on feelings rather than beliefs, because beliefs kind of cloud the way they feel. If you go back to religion or rules that your parents instilled in you, if you're forcing yourself to be a certain way because of this belief, then you're kind of constricting yourself from living. And if you want to live a life with drugs or being promiscuous or whatever, then do it and then see how you feel.
I think if you're given the right, if you're a functioning individual, then yeah.
I think most people operate on like a completely unconscious level with this type of stuff. So it's very rare that somebody will actually sit down and wonder, like, why do I do that? Why do I believe that? And am I willing to unshackle that enough to allow like another perspective in? So when we're talking about like, being a good person, like how does that feel? Or go with your gut, or, a lot of people don't know what that means or how that feels, because there needs to be some sort of awareness of, this is how I feel, or this is uncomfortable for me. So whether we're talking about beliefs or faiths or social structure or whatever, I think the important thing is to be curious about what's really going on. There's a lot of information out there at our fingertips that will usually support whatever side you want to be on. So
self-evaluation is important.
Self-evaluation is extremely important. And I think that most people are still consumed with basic needs, basic survival needs: food, clothing, shelter, water, clean air, that to get into this space of self-evaluation or self-discovery, or really questioning why I do the things that I do, or why do I believe in the things that I believe, maybe not ever,
Right.
because of the need to survive. And
It's a whole other step to be able to think that way and then say,
it is.
I'm going to change that about myself.
Very rarely does anybody go home and wonder, why did I get upset at that person in that car? People are so focused on the very next step that they very rarely ever wonder, why did I just do that? Who was that person that I thought I was in that moment? Who did that? Because generally, I'm not that person, or whatever the case may be. So I think that having this conversation between the three of us is very good, but it doesn't really mean anything, or it's never going to go anywhere unless our listeners are open and willing to question, why do I believe this? Is this something that I inherited from my parents? Do I have to say please and thank you in order to be loved? Or do I say please and thank you because I feel good about it?
Right.
Do I open the car door for my spouse because I feel obligated to do it because I saw my dad do it for my mom for however many years and she loved him, so then I must get loved that way? Or do I do it because I really want to do something, I really want to go out of my way and do little things for, the person that I'm with? So the belief is usually, yes, it's convoluted, it's very limiting, and it's often tied up in very intense emotions. And it's very rare that a person will actually wonder, where does this belief come from? And because beliefs are usually a clan thing, a close-knit societal thing, it's sometimes it can be hard even to live life without beliefs, because we're constantly bombarded with this idea that we need to believe in something in order to be happy, or in order to be accepted, or in order to be loved. It can be a very intense and uncomfortable process to finally reach a point in one's life where you are confident enough in who you are to say, I don't know, and I really don't want to attach myself to that idea anymore. Because oftentimes there are family members and friends who will challenge you or make you feel wrong for letting go of certain ideas and adopting new ones, or none at all.
Because you're leaving their clan.
Exactly.
Well, they shouldn't have set up one in the first place.
Well, should or shouldn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. This is the type of society that we live in. It's been around for thousands of years.
Right, and I think that that's a fundamental flaw that I'd like to see changed. I think that not knowing is something that unites individuals. I think that I can sit around comfortably and talk about things that we don't have answers to and come up with ideas and not attach to any of the ideas, not build a worldview or a structure that my life is based around, that's beholden to these ideas. I don't see why that's necessary. At least I don't feel like it's necessary for me. I'm perfectly comfortable not having answers to many things.
I think that's a consensus that we've all come to today. That having beliefs limits you, but faith can be a good thing, I believe.
I would say it depends. I would say that you could turn a faith into a belief.
Yes.
If you have faith that there is life after death, then that could ultimately turn into a belief that limits you and your experience of what's going on right now. Having faith that there's life after death often puts a person's attention to what happens after you die. Versus...
They are somewhat connected then, faith and belief.
What about faith? If you draw an analogy, if you sort of jump into a river full of rapids, and instead of
rapids,
rabbits,
a river full of rabbits, That sounds kind of fluffy.
So, it's my list.
Start again, you're fine.
So,
A river full of rabbits.
right, I'm trying to get this
My name is
right.
Thor. My name is Thor, and I'm jumping into this river full of rabbits with my hammer.
That's very politically incorrect of you. But it and you just kind of, if you kind of just go with the flow as opposed to trying to fight it, I guess faith would sort of be just along the lines of kind of trying to align yourself with sort of the way that things are instead of trying to constantly change or fight reality, and
It's
just having faith to align yourself with
acceptance, basically.
yeah, I guess you could say that acceptance for the way things are, and I guess not seeking to try to explain them or fight against them or.
But what if you want to have faith that everything's going to be okay and shit is not okay?
Well, because your definition of okay is not aligning with reality. So you've chosen to define okay as this is going to be this way and this way and this way. And
I need to get my car paid off and my house paid off, and then it'll be okay.
right. And so
But that's a belief, right?
Right.
But then you could say that, like, I have faith that regardless of whether or not I pay off my car, I'm going to be okay.
Right.
But what if you're not okay?
well, you could just say if things are going to be as they're going to be, and I'll have faith in that. It's
Right.
going to be okay. Whatever happens. If I die, it's okay. If I live, it's okay.
It's
If
okay
I'm-
right now.
It's okay. Everything's okay. So when you fight against that, I guess you could say that's a lack of faith. Not to say that you have to be completely accepting of everything that comes your way, but whatever action you take against that, the outcome is you're disconnected from. So you're putting action forth, but the outcome you're disconnecting or disassociating with.
So, in other words, then, Thor, your definition of having faith would sort of be like a detaching from the outcome. Whereas a belief is very much attaching to an idea.
This is the way it's supposed to be, or the way it is.
I believe X, Y, Z.
Faith is, I don't know the reason why it's the way it is, and whatever happens to come is going to be okay. That to me is faith. And belief is, this is the way it is, and we have to achieve this outcome or it's not going to be okay. Belief seems like it's something that
It's not at peace.
it's not a very peaceful position. It's something where you're either on the attack or being attacked, and no matter what the outcome is, if it goes your way, it's great. If it doesn't go your way, then it's not okay.
But faith, as you define it, it just is.
Just letting go.
I mean, I think you can see that somewhat in certain parts of religion too. I mean, that where they say, well, it's God's will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that would be kind of another way of saying faith.
Right. Jesus' last words.
Thy
will be done.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of just realize you don't have power over everything.
You just accept whatever is.
Ultimately, I mean, I think you can attempt to strive for certain things.
Oh yeah, we don't say we just lay there and
right.
accept whatever happens, and we still get up and get the food that brings us happiness and find a job that brings us.
But I ultimately relinquish. I have to realize that
I don't know. The foods that I like to eat ultimately don't bring me happiness.
No,
they make me grumpy cat.
So in other words, don't go with your feelings on that.
Don't go with my gut.
No, I think inevitably they will make you unhappy.
But I really like those tasty cakes.
Yeah.
they're happy in my mouth.
Well, that's, I think we've come to some clarity as far as beliefs, having beliefs can be pretty limiting to your mind, not having an open mind about, if you don't have specific beliefs, firm beliefs intact, you can be more fluent, then you can potentially go with the flow of the river a little easier and let life take you where it takes you without resisting so much.
But everybody has to get here in their own time,
right.
In their own way. So
shouldn't force people to change their beliefs.
No, I don't think so at all.
But you can present an idea.
I think that under certain circumstances, absolutely. I think that you have to feel it out. And if you get the sense that if I ask this person this question that will cause them to reconsider their belief that it will go well,
right.
then you ultimately might decide to do that. And it will create an interesting conversation. Mm-hmm. But you
always take the chance that they could resist it, and then it just intensifies their belief, and then you kind of just walk away.
and you know who those people are. You know who those people are in your life, where there are just certain things, there are just certain paths down which you cannot go with certain people. And I think the most important, from my perspective, of course, always my perspective, it's most important to just be the example. So if you're a happy-go-lucky, well-rounded person, and there are people in your life who are miserable, and ultimately people they reach a point in their misery where they just don't want to be miserable anymore.
Maybe. Not always.
Death is the ultimate release from misery. So
absolutely.
That you might get there when you die.
Then you have to accept what is.
but you might get approached by someone someday wondering, why are you so happy? Why are you so much at peace? And at that point, when the question happens, the mind is open to receive the wisdom that comes from living a life of non-attachment and letting go and having faith, so to speak, of just continuing to do what you do.
Belief.
Faith without belief. Right. But it's important to allow people to get there in their own time, because then, as we have this conversation, then if we were to not allow people to get there in their own time, we would ultimately be hypocrites. Because then if you don't allow somebody to be where they are, if you don't accept them for who they are and where they're at, then you have a belief in line with a judgment that you believe that they are not where they are supposed to be in that place in their life, and so therefore you're going to change that.
Right.
So who am I to judge you for your beliefs or the experiences that have led you to have these beliefs? I am not that person. You are that person to decide who you are and the beliefs that you have based on your experiences. Only you can do that. Not me.
On a small individual level, but I think that there are certain circumstances with belief where it starts to affect other individuals, where I can certainly have my say about your beliefs. If your beliefs infringe upon my freedoms of belief, then we have a problem. If you, for example, believe that all women should be locked away in their homes and then they shouldn't receive an education, and that, if you, say something against a certain religion, that you should be killed, those are beliefs that I think are unacceptable, and they should not be tolerated.
I'm just speaking about like regular day-to-day mundane life. So if you personally believe that I should be locked in prison and you're calling the cops on me, during this conversation, I'm obviously going to say something. I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to challenge your belief. But if we're just having conversation and you're just like a friend or a family member in my life and your beliefs are limiting you and they're causing you to suffer, then it's not my place or my position to challenge that.
To change it or fix it.
No. And if ever a person were to be open and willing to ask for advice, then that's when the presentation is made. But to be the person that reaches out to say, hey, pointing the finger, hey, you such and such, I know what to do, that challenges that person's belief in that moment in a way that puts yourself in the seat of power and the other person making them wrong. So do I fail at this regularly? Yes, I do. But I recognize that it's important to allow people to just kind of walk their own path, because we all get there at some point. It might be on your deathbed. It might be as a result of this podcast. Somebody might wake up and go, yeah, why do I believe that?
Well, if tomorrow everyone woke up without beliefs, would that be a positive thing?
I think so.
I think so. The world would change completely.
Totally.
But it would be based in truth.
So maybe if we don't say what their beliefs should be and just say, stop believing. I'm not telling you what to believe, but just don't believe.
All you can believe is reality, right?
I say question everything. Question the question.
Well, you can look at an apple and, say that's an apple, but do you really know what an apple is? Can you understand how it grow or know it deeply? Not really.
I mean, that goes beyond sort of my daily experience with apples. I don't think about apples that deeply.
Right.
I just eat them.
Right, but when you eat them, do you just think, I'm eating an apple, or do you really taste every bite and get the most out of your apples? I just say
apples.
Yeah. Letting go of belief ultimately then is letting go of labels and, judgments.
Wasn't that Shakespeare who said if something about a rose, if a rose were not named a rose, would it still be a rose? Help me out. Help me out. How does that go?
That's like
that's from Romeo and
30
Juliet,
years ago.
right?
I don't know.
Come on.
It would still be.
Basically, like if a rose were not still named, would it still be a rose? Or would it be so much more?
It would be more, I think.
Does one need to think that deeply about things in order to find enjoyment in life?
It's not thinking, though. It's just experiencing,
Well, I mean, you can taste the apple and say it tastes good. But I don't have to
or not.
I don't have to do I need to delve into its essence in order to find fulfillment and happiness?
No.
I don't know.
No, I don't. I think that at some point that, yes, you ultimately get to that space where you don't need to go through that thought process to get to just experiencing the essence. But I do think in the very beginning, when all of these beliefs, and yes, sometimes very strong faiths that turn into beliefs, come to the surface to be questioned, to be evaluated, and ultimately go through, it's like a distillation process. You get to the point where it either limits you or it sets you free. And in the beginning, it can be a process of well, what is it about the apple that I like? I like its red color. I like the fact that it has seeds in it, or I like the skin, the texture of the skin, And then I think you get to the point where this has happened on such a regular basis that you just automatically know deep within yourself call it faith, that when I do this thing, I feel good. If I eat this apple, I feel good. I like the way it tastes. I don't need to get into the semantics of, I like the flavor and I like the texture and it's juicy and it's red and it's shiny. It has a stem. You know, it takes a long time and it takes practice. And initially, there are a lot of beliefs that have to be. There's a process of undoing.
It's undoing all the thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
All of the thoughts and the emotions, the very strong reactions
That
that we
voice in your
have.
head.
Yeah, yeah.
Just let go of all that and just experience through your senses. I mean, that's all it comes down to.
The end.
Any final words, Mr. Thor?
No, but the next time we speak, I'll probably contradict everything I said here. But yeah, I think we've kind of gotten to the heart of the matter, at least the parts that I wanted to talk about. So, do you want me to bring the gavel down and end this?
Yeah, go for it.
Board adjourned.
Thank you for listening. For more Being Human, go to facebook.com/beinghumanpodcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or find all our recordings on SoundCloud.